Hello, welcome to this video. Thank you so much for tuning in and sharing this now moment with myself and with one another. For those of you who haven't seen these videos before, welcome and welcome back if you have. My intention is benevolence for all in alignment with the highest levels of love light. And so I'm going to go into a little flow message. I just did a light language message that was coming through. I had a lot of English coming through, but I didn't want to stop the light language from coming through and the ancestral toning. So hopefully my microphone is set up for this. I'll turn it up just a bit. The other video that I just did, I was guided to talk about stubbornness, and that was more of a Kiss, Keep It Simple Starseeds video. When I do session work with beautiful starseeds and light workers such as yourselves, there are messages that come through for the collective, because we're all, one person might be going through something, but so are hundreds of other people. And each of us have our own unique experiences, so when we work together, whether it be just in this interaction or in one-on-one or with whomever we're working with, there are certain things that come through in that particular moment that are perhaps in the field that need to be addressed, but there's also messages that come through for the collective. So I'm going to start doing more videos about those. I'm going to go back and watch a lot of the session videos that I've done because I don't usually watch them again. I just send them to whoever I've worked with so that they can watch them again, and I just usually let it go. But I've been guided to go back in and start typing up some of the collective messages that come through, and of course I don't use names of the beautiful starseeds that I'm working with, but I'm grateful for you guys for connecting with me and giving my guidance team and myself the opportunity to pull through those messages for the collective and for you personally. So thank you for those, for that. So a little shout out to you guys. And what they share is oftentimes the way my style is, I'm not a big yes and no person. I just kind of go with what I'm guided to share that is most needed in that now moment for whoever I'm working with, or for example this message for the collective. So what'll happen is, by me kind of tuning into that person's signature, their energetic signature or their field, I am also pulling in what collective that person is energetically a signature match with as well, if that makes sense. And I'm starting to recognize that in session work, so that's really cool. Very, very cool. What is that? Pretty cool. I'm quoting from some show that I can't remember. But anyways, so I'm just going to go into that. So thank you guys for that, because when we do it, it's not like we're just working together for just one person. This is working together for all of us. So I invite you to take a deep breath in, a long exhale. As we come into these new energies, so to speak, we are constantly having unfoldments happen in front of our very eyes. And there is this sense of disbelief that is forming among the starseed community, that is also forming among the community that does not connect themselves to the starseed idea, concept. Either way, what is happening is this unlocking has already been in the works for quite a while now. And now we are starting to see the fruition or the treasure that has been unlocked laying before us. For those of us that are still in a moment of disbelief, we invite you to let that go and to believe that the impossible is possible. When we say believe in miracles, we invite you to recognize that being alive in itself is a miracle. Existing in the capacity that you exist in with Mother Earth is a miracle in itself. And this miraculous, this is a play on words, recognition allows you to recognize that you are continuously and constantly interacting in this constant stream of miraculous capabilities. For you are divine creators, and as you allow yourself to unfold and unwrap the gifts that have been bestowed upon you, this is a play on words, guys. They're showing me bestowed, like when we are present, when we be present, we are unwrapping the gifts that are stowed within us, and they're showing me that we're stowaways. We're essentially now these stowaways. We've stowed away on this ship, which is Earth, and now we've come out of our box, so to speak, and we're pulling all of this stuff out of us that we've been holding inside of us for eons. And that's a play on words too. As we continually unwrap and unravel those strands, those particles, the acceleration that we are, they're showing us all riding this particle stream of consciousness, and we're essentially picking out these little pieces from the particle stream that we are like, oh, I recognize that. Oh, this is cool. And again, they're referring back to the Skittles. I've done a couple videos in the last 5 videos. One of them was about tasting the rainbow and the Skittles. Ooh, did I post that video? I think I did on Friday, maybe the 6th. As we recognize these choices to acknowledge the gifts that we are being, they're saying, being ignited, that we are reuniting with, that we are, when you actually give something attention, we are essentially acknowledgement is what they're saying. When we acknowledge that there are new abilities within our field, within our scope, we then allow ourselves to expand our scope of awareness as well. And in doing this, it offers insight to the paths that we have chosen and the decisions that we are making. As these choice points, as we align ourselves more with 0 point, so just this oneness or this unification with our higher selves, we allow ourselves to continuously make choice points that are extractions of a higher resonance. Okay, so they're showing me, I watched the show, Expedition Unknown. This particular episode I wasn't that crazy about, but they extracted this core sample from a tree. And by extracting the core sample from the tree, they could go back in and get the information. If you look at a tree ring, every ring represents, they're saying it's an Aeon. But we call it rings of time or the years. Well, they're showing that we are extracting or essentially extrapolating? There's a big play on words here, you guys. This isn't necessarily literal. From our core. So we're pulling out these core samples, and then we're taking that information and we're able to then transform our reality here and now. And that's what we came to do. As we, they're showing me resonate, and they're playing this with that resin, the resin in a tree holds frequency. And they're also showing me amber. So, sorry if this sound is a little, I got to practice on this microphone, but it's either give the messages or practice on the microphone. So I'm just going to give the messages. As we recognize, as we recognize, as we remember, as we extract from our core essence, all that we are in divine remembrance, in divine reunification, unifying with our Christ consciousness, with our higher consciousness, with our crystal friends, our brothers and sisters, with our Mother Earth, our Logos connection, coming into a new Aeon, a new brethren. So brothers within is what we're connecting to, and sisters, of course. This is and ancestors. Tying all those words in together. We are being invited to pull and extract what it is that we need in this now moment, and to let go of all of the junk. Now they're playing with this on words because we have this idea that junk DNA is junk, and it's not. But they're saying let go of the junk in playing with that. Like, it isn't all these belief systems and structures and ideas and concepts that we have essentially built around us. that have mapped out who we have been. We're being invited to see that as the junk and to recognize that let's get to the core essence of who we are. And we're being presented with timelines, presentations, feelings, memories, and relationship connections that are essentially showing us what is in alignment and reminding us what is out of alignment, or vice versa. The portals that we are lining up with, that we are currently in trajectory and on path with, are meant to assist us in transporting our energy over from previous incarnations that are able to assist us in this lifetime, in this carnation. And as we recognize ourselves, so I'm seeing reference to a carnival and I'm seeing reference to carnivores, and I'm going to see where this is going. They're sharing for unlawful carnal knowledge. What they're saying is recognizing that the carnal knowledge that we have accumulated in this lifetime is junk. And to recognize that the knowledge that is coming through from previous incarnations in reference to who we have been and who we are friends with, our guides, our ancestors, is more of the truth of who we are. We have been invited to recognize that our existence is not just in this linear format. And this is a play on words of 4D, or this idea of four, meaning there's these four corners and that's it. There's so much more to it. Many of us are waking up to this knowledge, and there are those that will refuse to see past their carnal existence in this carnival. Recognizing that our carnivals have been many. We have traveled with many different guides and ancestors. We have traveled over many parts of the galaxy, of the earth, or of the versions of realities that we are now extrapolating from. That's a play on words again. What we choose to strap ourselves into is up to us, but we invite you to feel fluid in the ability to ground. So the idea that we are just floating around and connecting to all of these different ports and portals is true, but we also are being invited to recognize that we came to Earth to anchor those frequencies, to anchor those portals, to anchor those timelines, and we essentially are a walking anchoring system, or better yet, a conduit, because an anchor can kind of make people feel heavy, that concept and that idea. Recognizing that an anchor can move. If the powers get strong enough, the anchor can move. If the winds get strong enough, it doesn't mean that you're stuck somewhere. All it means is that we're essentially tapping in and leaving our mark, leaving our residual energy or residue in this space. And so we're being invited, as a lot of this junk gets sucked out or gets transmuted and integrated, digested, so to speak, that the more that we pull in from our, I'm seeing people kind of like say, okay, this works for me, this doesn't. I see that I had this lifetime where I was persecuted. However, I'm going to digest that and integrate it, use it as compost. I've talked about this a lot in my previous videos. Compost it and utilize it for energy to recognize that persecution means that I'm not a divine sovereign being, and I'm recognizing that that was another lifetime. And that lifetime no longer resonates in this particular frequency and energy, but I can utilize that as strength, because during that lifetime, you had connections with, let's say, the Essenes, or higher advanced technology, or you were friends with Nikola Tesla, or I could go on and on. So yes, you may have been persecuted in that lifetime. I will use the example of a lot of the women and men who have been persecuted in previous lifetimes for being different, for being a shaman or for being a witch. And let's say, for example, those memories come up. There may be some fear associated with those. There may be some discomfort and some pain that arises. But the bigger picture is that in that moment, you were persecuted because you had a gift, because you were able to tap into the elementals and work with herbs and heal people, or you were able to time travel, such as the shamans do, and go into different dimensions and pull through bits and pieces of information. Because you were that person, you felt lonely. So that might come up right now. You might be feeling lonely for some reason. But they're also showing there are other ends of the spectrum, because sometimes people can pull through from lifetimes where they maybe didn't make the right choices. Right being relative. They feel like they might have hurt someone, or they did something that wasn't necessarily for the highest and greatest good. And that can be integrated to then recognize that we are being gifted the opportunity to integrate that timeline to help or to assist in not letting that happen again, or to recognize that that won't happen again, because that isn't who you are now. But you can utilize the energy and the knowledge from that experience, should it come to surface, of, wow, I made the choice to, let's say, become, rule with power and only looked for money. As I was rich, and so all of these other, that's not who I am now. I am abundant, and I have that ability to draw that wealth to me, but I'm going to use it now to help other people. I'm going to share an example. Well, I'm not going to go there. Let's just go back into flow, which I'm still in flow, but as we recognize these aspects of ourselves and we pull them through into this reality, into this version of Earth, into this timeline, into the multiple timelines, into the multiple versions of Earth, we bounce back, we transmit that energy back through the portal. So it's almost like, yes, that happened, but because now we're able to embody and integrate it, we're sending back a message to those other versions of ourselves, which then shifts the energy around that situation. So in essence, we're actually, from one very, very multidimensional perspective, changing our past. And that's not something we're going to get into in depth, but it's like when you go multidimensional and you connect to these other versions of you, you tell yourself, I love you. That shifts that awareness immediately. And it changes everything. So we're being invited to recognize that this is no small feat. As we do this as a collective, as we do this for ourselves, that's why the guides keep saying, sorry if I'm yelling and this is distorted, but that's why the guides keep saying that the work on yourself, start with you. Because when you change you, you're changing 30, 40, 50 infinite versions of yourself, whether you recognize it or not. Then that changes all of the attachments, people, places, and things that are attached to that circumstance. So I am going to give the example because they're asking me to. There's a meditation where you go back to the womb. You visualize going back into the womb, and I will do this meditation sometime and record it because I've been asked to do that. But for now, they're sharing, if you do that and you visualize going back to you as a baby in the womb, and you tell yourself beautiful things, and you visualize yourself now as the angel going back, or whatever you want to see it, beautiful light, love, frequency, and you send all this energy to the fetus in the womb, and it goes up the umbilical cord into the mother, it changes your dynamic and your memories and your relationship with the mother. Also, it can change, and this was gifted to me as an insight during a session that I was doing with the beautiful light worker who needed a shift between, and I didn't realize that as I went through the meditation until afterwards. It also changes your belief about who you are now. You are literally changing the energy around your birth. And while sometimes that's not, it doesn't seem like a lot, it is. even just one little thing, can dictate a certain response to a certain circumstance. So for example, if you go back and you visualize your relationship with your sister or sibling, brother, and you might have had an argument and you visualize giving them a hug, your intention in that moment is felt. Whether they know or not that's what you're doing. It's felt. It is palpable. And that's why mass meditations based on world peace have an effect on the world. It's been proven. So it's prayer, the power of prayer. So if you think of the power of prayer, and now these memories are coming up that are being activated in us, and we are going, wow, okay, I'm grateful for that. Boom, boom. It's like sending energy back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. As we continue to link up with these other versions of ourselves, we also link in with our guides and ancestors that were connected to us during those times, during those eons. And we essentially then link up or power up this once previously thought lost connection. And when we do it with intention and when we do it in coherence, we allow ourselves to activate even more portals through the portal of the heart. We activate the conscientiousness of the collective experience, the consciousness inside the earth, and connect in a conscientious consciousness pattern that then lights up not only ourselves as a conduit grid system pattern, light worker frequency, but we do this within the earth dynamics, as above, so below. So what they're showing me is there's these ancient crystals, and I'm not going to get into all of this, but because we have raised our frequency and vibration, and the more we continue to do that, we connect in with these pieces of ourselves, which then raises their frequency and allows them to ascend or expand or evolve, all different variations. In addition to that, it holds or changes the pattern that was being held within the earth during that lifetime, as well as this lifetime. And I know I'm going really multidimensional here, but just kind of play, if you wouldn't mind, with this idea. So if you look at now, if you go outside, you hold a frequency, you hold a vibration, and you enter that frequency into the earth energetically like roots. It is being felt in the earth, therefore it is shifting and changing the area in which you are sending that energy to, and all of the connections you've had on the earth in multiple lifetimes. For example, grid workers know what I'm talking about, right? So this is happening at such a high level, such a high amount of consciousness has been calibrated to assist and essentially with the elementals, with the essences of being, lock in a new, they're showing me things that I don't know how to explain. Portal, grid, a geometry shape. This geometric shape and pattern is a new creation, and within this they're showing me again this reference to this pinball machine. So I'd done a video a while ago and I thought they had been talking about the light body, and they're not. They're talking about something beyond the light body, kind of like the light body. It looks like that the grid, the what's it called? Well, the light body. If you guys look that up, there is a video on, I've shared it when I think I labeled it as light body correction, maybe. It used to be seen as a 10 spherical tree of life, but it's actually a 12 spherical tree of life. And what they're sharing with me from one perspective is that will continue to expand. So there's more to it than what we are being shown right now. That is just a very base foundation, and some of that information was correct and some of it was incorrect. So now that's being corrected, or that new information is coming through to then correct our perception around this tree of life grid or space or light body grid or space. But what they're showing me is this is like, picture a lattice work, and I tried to explain that in that other video and it didn't come through. So picture lattice work with bubbles or spheres, which are crystal lattices if you look up the way a lattice is formed. And it's like we've unattached or expanded out, and now we're latching into a new part of that grid system. And it's like galactic, cosmic, so on and so forth. Then this allows us to light up another part of the galaxy that was previously, they're saying uninhabited, but that's a play on words. That could be a play on words like we were not in the habit of connecting with, but they're saying it was unhabitual. But they're saying play with the words on that. Unhabitual. I'll have to maybe write that down. Our time stream and consciousness then allows, or is allowed, a link up. Linking up with higher dimensional perspectives, but also higher dimensional, I'm seeing spheres of light. So it's like we're linking into the higher dimensions. And that's a linear way of looking at it. It's like we're linking in not just to some dimension or some place. We're linking up to a lot more than that. Now, this description that they're offering is also happening in the body. So it's happening in our cells, it's happening in our brain, our pineal gland, and a lot of what we've got going on, our technology, our suit, is also changing to then be able to further conduit this connection. This is why it's so important to hold space for not only one another, but for ourselves. Because as we hold space, we create space, and we allow more things to come into that space and then expand out even more. Rather than condensing things and bringing them into this lower density. So what they're showing me is we've been in this habit of condensing and heavy and interlocking and building and concrete, and that's all falling apart. And so there is this desire for some to they've lost their anchor, and now they're trying to anchor back into this old density, and it's not working. They're showing me that they're dragging their anchor. Cut the anchor, you'll grow new roots, and you'll anchor to someplace else that's better for you, is what they're saying. Somebody out there needed to hear that. Others are like, yeah, they're letting it go, and they're floating, and they're like, I don't need to drop anchor, I'm just going to float. And what they're saying is extend those roots out in branches and allow yourself to anchor in a fluid way. So you don't have to anchor and have that heaviness associated with it, but it's like a banyan tree. A banyan tree roots out. It doesn't go deep, it just branches out and it spreads out. And the more it does that, the more it grows out, and it grows down, and it grows up. And we're being invited to be like that banyan tree, right? Either way, we're anchoring these frequencies. And so it is important to be able to not just be in that constant state of it's a fluid anchoring is what they're sharing. It's a fluid consistency, a crystallization in some type of a plasma form. They're sharing that it's more like a growing crystal. So it's like if you put a crystal on speed, when you watch something grow and you speed it up, it's like that's what's happening. It's like this constant fluid motion and growing. And that's what we're being invited to do, is branch out, spread out, space. We're still rooting, we're still anchoring into some things, and those things that we're not, but it doesn't have to be what we used to do, which was Gotta anchor, gotta stick to it, it's different. And I think this is part of the reason why that stubbornness came through. They were saying, don't be stubborn, be fluid, let go. You don't have to do things the same way you've always done them, because that isn't who we are anymore. As these old timelines collapse and are essentially integrated and merge with this new creation, with this new creative expansiveness of reality, windfalls will come about. For as things fall, so too will they be uplifted. So they're kind of showing like old things collapsing, but then those get blown, and essentially we can still use some of it, bits and pieces of it, for our new architecture. Allow ourselves just to kind of let it go, and trust that there is something better and bigger being presented to us if we can get out of linearity and see past the idea of what's next. Or, okay, they're showing me it's not just about what's next is fine, but it's what's now. And it's not, some people are still seeing what's next from this, what's next. And they're saying, be present, let that go, and you'll see what's next. Okay, I'm going to go here, and I'm going to go here. And that's kind of what they're showing me, as far as that fluidity goes. Recognize that these new portals that are old activations assisting in the new frequency lineups, so to speak, this is a play on words and a multi-dimensional way of looking at it, I'm hearing, I'm coming up. So it's like they're coming up. Bring ourselves into alignment with them so that we can follow that trajectory, but don't get so anchored in that we freak out if we think we're missing it or missing something, or things aren't happening the way that we want them to. Again, it's letting go of that control, that need to have a certain outcome, or having a certain expectation. Expecting great things, but not saying they have to happen in this way. For limitations are being invited to be lifted, restrictions are being invited to be lifted, so that things that we may not have even perceived in our old framework as possible can then anchor in. And in doing this, it will assist the collective, the humanity population that is stuck in dense groves, in dense, they're showing me like pockets. It will shake loose some of the patterns that they have been stuck within, and they will start to feel this opportunistic network of light workers assisting in pulling them through their density or wherever it is that they feel stuck. I'm having that reference to like just mud, and we're essentially the roots breaking through the mud. They're grasping onto them and we're helping pull them out, but we're doing it indirectly. It doesn't have to be literal, right? This is an energetic message. So we're going to end on this note. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and sharing this now moment again with myself and with one another. In love and light. Have a beautiful day. Have a beautiful week. Whenever you're watching this, this is always relevant, this particular message. But basically I'm seeing that there's a lot happening, right? There's a lot of shifts. And I keep getting the message that it's not really, this is our new reality. So it's either, and that's another video, but shift, fluid, do whatever we need to do in that moment to help bring us into the now moment. Breathe, exercise, drink water, do what we know we need to do, and not putting it off and being stubborn and hanging on to the old ways, because those ways are not, that's all a facade. And that facade is coming down. It's crumbling. So if we're trying to anchor into an old facade, we're not going to be able to anchor, because essentially there will be nothing to anchor into, is kind of what they're sharing. And that density is either is breaking up, that's another video, but I just wanted to kind of share that, recognize that those old realities that we were so anchored into, they're non-existent from one perspective. So rather than trying to hang on to something that isn't, just let it go and be in the now moment to see what is and to feel what is, more importantly. Love and light, guys. Namaste.